the pros and cons of humor and meme. So in some sense, there's like a wisdom to memes. What is it? The Magic Theater. What book is that from? Herman Hesse. Steppenwolf, I think. But there's a kind of embracing of the absurdity that seems to get to the truth of things. But at the same time, it can also decrease the quality and the rigor of the discourse.
Yeah.
Do you feel the tension of that?
Yeah. So initially, I think what allowed us to grow under the radar was because it was camouflaged as sort of meta-ironic, right? We would sneak in, deep truths within a package of humor and memes and what are called shit posts, right? And I think that was purposefully a sort of camouflage against those that seek status and do not want to. It's very hard to argue with a cartoon frog or a cartoon of an intergalactic Jeff Bezos and take yourself seriously.
Yeah.
And so that allowed us to grow pretty rapidly in the early days. But of course, like that's essentially people get steered. Their notion of the truth comes from the data they see, from the information they're fed, and the information people are fed is determined by algorithms, right? And really what we've been doing is sort of engineering what we call high memetic fitness packets of information so that they can spread effectively and carry a message, right? So it's kind of a vector to spread the message. And yes, we've been using sort of techniques that are optimal for today's algorithmically amplified information landscapes. But I think we're reaching the point of, scale where we can have serious debates and serious conversations. And, that's why we're considering doing a bunch of debates and having more serious long form discussions. Because I don't think that the timeline is optimal for sort of very serious, thoughtful discussions. You get rewarded for sort of polarization, right? And so even though we started a movement that is literally trying to polarize the tech ecosystem, at the end of the day, it's so that we can have a conversation and find an optimum together.
I mean, that's kind of what I try to do with this podcast, given the landscape of things, to still have long-form conversations. But there is a degree to which absurdity is fully embraced. In fact, this very conversation is multi-level absurd. So first of all, I should say that I just very recently had a conversation with Jeff Bezos. And I would love to hear your Beth Bezos opinions of Jeff Bezos. Speaking of intergalactic Jeff Bezos, what do you think of that particular individual whom your name is inspired?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jeff is really great. I mean, he's built one of the most epic companies of all time. He's leveraged the techno capital machine and techno capital acceleration to give us what we wanted, right? We want quick delivery, very convenient, at home, low prices, right? He understood how the machine worked and how to harness it, right? Like running the company, not trying to take profits too early, putting it back, letting the system compound and keep improving. And, arguably, I think Amazon's invested some of the most amount of capital in robotics out there. And certainly with the birth of AWS kind of enabled the sort of tech boom we've seen today that has paid the salaries of, I guess myself and all of our friends to some extent. And so I think we can all be grateful to, Jeff, and he's one of the great entrepreneurs out there, one of the best of all time, unarguably.
And of course, the work at Blue Origin, similar to the work at SpaceX, is trying to make humans a multiplanetary species, which seems almost like a bigger thing than the capitalist machine, or it's a capitalist machine at a different time scale, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that companies, they tend to optimize, quarter over quarter, maybe a few years out. But individuals that want to leave a legacy can think on a multi-decadal or multi-century timescale. And so the fact that some individuals are such good capital allocators that they unlock the ability to allocate capitals to goals that take us much further or are much further looking. Elon's doing this with SpaceX, putting all this capital towards getting us to Mars. Jeff is trying to build Blue Origin, and I think he wants to build O'Neill cylinders and get industry off planet, which I think is brilliant. I think just overall, I'm for billionaires. I know this is a controversial statement sometimes, but I think that in a sense, it's kind of a proof of stake voting, right? Like if you've allocated capital efficiently, you unlock more capital to allocate just because clearly you know how to allocate capital more efficiently, which is in contrast to politicians that get elected because they speak the best on TV, right? Not because they have a proven track record of allocating taxpayer capital most efficiently. And so that's why I'm for capitalism over, say, giving all our money to the government and letting them figure out how to allocate it. So, yeah.
Why do you think it's a viral and a popular meme to criticize billionaires? Since you mentioned billionaires, why do you think there's quite a widespread criticism of people with wealth, especially those in the public eye, like Jeff and Elon and Mark Zuckerberg and who else? Bill Gates.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would, instead of trying to understand how the capital machine works and realizing they have much more agency than they think, they'd rather have this sort of victim mindset. Oh, I'm just subjected to this machine. It is oppressing me. And the successful players clearly must be evil because they've been successful at this game that I'm not successful at. But I've managed to get some people that were in that mindset and make them realize how the techno-capital machine works and how you can harness it for your own good and for the good of others. And by creating value, you capture some of the value you create for the world. And that sort of positive sum mindset shift is so potent. And really, that's what we're trying to do by scaling EAC, is sort of unlocking that higher level of agency. Like, actually, you're far more in control of the future than you think. You have agency to change the world. Go out and do it. You have here's permission.
Each individual has agency. Yeah. The motto "Keep building" is often heard.
Right.
What does that mean to you? And what does that have to do with Diet Coke?
Well,
by the way, thank you so much for the Red Bull. It's working pretty well. I'm feeling pretty good.
Awesome. Well, so building technologies and building, it doesn't have to be technologies, just building in general means, having agency, trying to change the world by creating, let's say, a company, which is a self-sustaining organism that, accomplishes a function in the broader techno-capital machine. To us, that's the way to achieve change in the world that you'd like to see, rather than, say, pressuring politicians or creating nonprofits that, nonprofits, once they run out of money, their function can no longer be accomplished. You're kind of deforming the market artificially compared to sort of subverting or coercing the market to, or dancing with the market to convince it that actually this function is important, adds value, and here it is, right? And so I think, this is sort of the way between this sort of degrowth, like ESG approach versus, say, Elon, right? The degrowth approach is like, we're going to manage our way out of a climate crisis. And Elon is like, I'm going to build a company that is self-sustaining, profitable, and growing. And we're going to innovate our way out of this dilemma, right? And we're trying to get people to do the latter rather than the former at all scales.
Elon is an interesting case. So you are a proponent, you celebrate Elon, but he's also somebody who has for a long time warned about the potential dangers, existential risks of artificial intelligence. How do you square the two? Is that a contradiction to you?
It is somewhat, because he's very much against regulation in many aspects, but for AI, he's definitely a proponent of regulations. I think overall, he saw the dangers of, say, OpenAI, cornering the market and then getting to have the monopoly over the cultural priors that you can embed in these LLMs that then, as LLMs now become the source of truth for people, then you can shape the culture of the people. And so you can control people by controlling LLMs. And he saw that, just like it was the case for social media, if you shape the function of information propagation, you can shape people's opinions.
Mhm.
He sought to make a competitor. So at least, like, I think we're very aligned there that, the way to a good future is to maintain sort of adversarial equilibria between the various AI players. I'd love to talk to him to understand sort of his thinking about how to make, how to advance AI going forwards. I mean, he's also hedging his bets, I would say, with Neuralink, right? I think if he can't stop the progress of AI, he's building the technology to merge. So, look at the actions, not just the words. But
Well, I mean, there's some degree where being concerned, maybe using human psychology, being concerned about threats all around us is a motivator. Like, it's an encouraging thing. I operate much better when there's a deadline, the fear of the deadline. Like, and I, for myself, create artificial things. Like, I want to create in myself this kind of anxiety as if something really horrible will happen if I miss the deadline. I think there's some degree of that here, because creating AI that's aligned with humans has a lot of potential benefits. And so a different way to reframe that is, if you don't, we're all going to die. It just seems to be a very powerful psychological formulation of the goal of creating human-aligned AI.
I think that anxiety is good. I think, like I said, I want the free market to create aligned AIs that are reliable, and I think that's what he's trying to do with XAI. So I'm all for it. What I am against is sort of stopping, let's say, the open source ecosystem from thriving, right? By, let's say, in the executive order, claiming that open source LMs are dual use technologies and should be government controlled. Then everybody needs to register their GPU and their big matrices with the government. And I think that extra friction will dissuade a lot of hackers from contributing, hackers that could later become the researchers that make key discoveries that push us forward, right? Including discoveries for AI safety. And so I think I just want to maintain ubiquity of opportunity to contribute to AI and to own a piece of the future, right? It can't just be legislated, behind some wall where only a few players get to play the game.
I mean, so the EAC movement is often sort of caricatured to mean sort of progress and innovation at all costs. Doesn't matter how unsafe it is. Doesn't matter if it causes a lot of damage. You just build cool shit as fast as possible. Stay up all night with a Diet Coke, whatever it takes. I think, I guess, I don't know if there's a question in there, but how important to you and what you've seen the different formulations of EAC is safety, is AI safety?
I think, again, like if there was no one working on it, I think I would be a proponent of it. I think, again, our goal is to sort of bring balance, and obviously a sense of urgency is a useful tool, right? To make progress. It hacks our dopaminergic systems and gives us energy to work late into the night. I think also having a higher purpose you're contributing to, right? At the end of the day, it's like, what am I contributing to? I'm contributing to the growth of this beautiful machine so that we can seek to the stars. That's really inspiring. That's also a sort of neuro hack.
So you're saying AI safety is important to you, but right now, the landscape of ideas you see is AI safety as a topic is used more often to gain centralized control. So in that sense, you're resisting it as a proxy for gaining centralized control.
Yeah, I just think we have to be careful because, safety is just the perfect cover for sort of centralization of power and covering up eventually corruption. I'm not saying it's corrupted now, but it could be down the line. And really, if you let the argument run, like there's no amount of sort of centralization of control that will be enough to ensure your safety. There's always more 999s of P safety that you can gain, 99.99999% safe. Maybe you want another 9. Oh, please give us full access to everything you do, full surveillance. And frankly, those that are proponents of AI safety have proposed like having a global panopticon, right? Where you have centralized perception of everything going on. And to me, that just opens up the door wide open for a sort of Big Brother 1984-like scenario. And that's not a future I want to live in.
Because we know we have some examples throughout history when that did not lead to a good outcome.
Right.